The first ever Indian Grand Prix happened this weekend and it was an excellent event. We're all looking forward to it, I think. It's always good to see a new track on the calendar, and it was great to see all the riders get up to speed so quickly when it came down to the racing action. So let's take a look at the 6 things we learned from the Indian Grand Prix. Terrific track. The Bud track was, of course, a brand new one for 2023. The first new track that we've actually been to, given that Kazakhstan was, of course, cancelled. And it was great to see this race weekend go ahead, despite some initial concerns about riders arriving, visa woes, and all the rest. They did get there and they did race, and everyone was raving about the track. Simon Crafar mentioned that he enjoyed it on his GoPro lap, and I think generally the sentiment from the riders was very positive. And I would say that as a fan, I very much enjoyed the track too. It looked interesting and has its own character, which is always good to see. There are, of course, some concerns that need to be improved on for next year. I think there was a little bit of a consensus around the paddock that the yellow flags took a little bit too long to be cleared. But hopefully they can improve that for next year. And either way, it's a terrific circuit and an excellent addition to the MotoGP calendar. Japanese Joust. It felt like we rewound a couple of years, really, this weekend, as the Japanese manufacturers were suddenly quite competitive, especially by comparison to the KTMs and the Aprilias. Marc Marquez did an excellent job in the sprint, taking a 3rd place, and he also did actually a pretty good job in the feature race, despite a bit of a tip-off at turn 1. He quickly clambered his way back from 16th right up into the top 10, finishing 9th, so actually a very impressive weekend for him. On the other side of the grid, Joan Mir, his teammate, also did a very good job. He was kind of fighting up there in the sprint. He did also crash, but either way, he was looking quick and comfortable, which was nice to see after such a torrid season so far. And in the feature race, Mir did an excellent job as well. He was fighting in that top 10, and I think he ended up finishing around 6th place, which is very impressive. And it was great to see those 2 Honda bikes going well for the first time since Portimao, really. And let's hope we can see more in Japan. The Blue Crew too did a very good job this weekend, as they were fighting back up in the top 10, actually higher than the top 10, top 5 kind of area in both the sprint and the feature, with Fabio Quartararo, despite that 1.2 kilometre straight. Fabio did an excellent job to get a podium in the feature race, and it was a good weekend all around for him. One that was called possibly one of his most impressive ever. So it was good to see the Japanese bikes, both Honda and Yamaha, competing at the front again, and hopefully they can start to find something, or perhaps find a confidence boost from this result for their riders, so they can continue to do well in the international leg that we're in now. Wardrobe malfunction. Jorge Martin showed just how difficult the conditions were on race day for the riders. He nearly fainted in Parc Ferme after he came across the line in 2nd, and during the race had a wardrobe malfunction similar to one we've seen before, where a zipper on his leathers came undone. Or perhaps he was just opening them up to cool off a little bit. Anyway, he did an excellent job all weekend and really showed that this is going to be quite possibly the toughest race of the year for these riders in the future, with the heat and humidity. And as mentioned before, I do think that is actually a positive thing. It adds to the character, and as long as it's not outright dangerous, it will be an interesting event each year to see how the riders deal with that intense condition that they will find each year in India. Pecco produces pendulum swing. Pecco Bagnaia gave his chief title rivals, Jorge Martin, that I just mentioned, and Marco Bezzecchi, pretty much an open goal, as he did kind of a Pecco mistake like we've seen in the past, chucking it down the road from 2nd place. That mistake from Pecco Bagnaia swings the championship momentum even more in the favour of Marco Bezzecchi and Jorge Martin, as they close their gap from 36 points for Jorge Martin down to 13, and 65 down to 44 for Bezzecchi. It means the title chase is actually becoming closer as we get closer towards the end of the season, which is very exciting to see. And it is certainly possible that we might see a satellite bike win the title this year. It's still going to be a tough job for those guys to overturn Bagnaia, but that gap has come down a lot this weekend, so it's exciting to see how they will do in Japan next weekend. Marquez x Ducati. How can we not talk about the comments made by Paolo Ciabatti this weekend regarding Marc Marquez? Let's be honest, no matter how much you like or dislike him, he is an important character on the grid, and it sounds more and more possible that he will be heading to Gresini. It's, surprising to me, as Simon Crafar very rightly pointed out. It seems weird that there's discussions around Honda and Yamaha getting concessions, and then Ducati suddenly pinching Honda's star rider off them. It seems almost contradictory to the whole goal of making sure that Honda and Yamaha stay in the sport. But, at the end of the day, it is Marc Marquez's choice. If he wants to move teams, he can. And with the comments made by Paolo Ciabatti, it's looking more and more possible that Marquez will end up partnering his brother next year. Bezbud brilliance. Bezzecchi may not have taken the sprint race win this weekend, but he took the feature race win in dominant fashion. He took it by 9 seconds, which is unheard of in MotoGP. And yeah, that sprint race victory probably should have been his. He had supreme pace over the field, and had he not been clattered in that first corner incident with his teammate, he probably would have gone on to take the win with the pace he had. He also, of course, took pole. So all around, it was an amazing weekend for Marco Bezzecchi. I was very impressed. And yeah, he's really kind of coming back into this title fight with the number of points he picked up over Bagnaia this weekend. Rider of the weekend. My rider of the weekend once again has to go to Fabio Quartararo, as it did in Catalunya. He did do such an excellent job to get a podium. That Yamaha still sucks, and the straights at the circuit this weekend were very long, 1.2 kilometers, longest on the calendar. So for him to do as well as he did and get a podium was very impressive. So Fabio Quartararo is my rider of the weekend. Struggle of the weekend. I'm going to give my struggle of the weekend to Miguel Oliveira. I just didn't really notice him at all, and I think he was just struggling to find any form of pace. Obviously, Aprilia weren't doing that well this weekend, but Miguel Oliveira in particular seemed to struggle with this circuit, which is a bit of a surprise, considering that the last circuit that was new that we went to, he did very well at. But this weekend obviously just wasn't for him. So Miguel Oliveira was my struggle of the weekend. Alright, that's a couple more discussion points than we normally do in these videos. But, it was a big weekend and very exciting, very dramatic. So there was a couple more things to talk about. If you want to discuss them with me, do that in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Goodbye.